Riot opens with a police officer named Green being sent to bring money to Balam, a high-profile prisoner who receives opulent jail accommodations, including personal guards. Balam, a drug lord, may continue to manage his business and regulate drug trafficking both inside and outside of prison. Balam also operates an arms trade and human trafficking company. Balam preferred to remain in prison because his adversaries couldn't affect him there. Balam's head was valued at $1 million. Therefore, it's no surprise that numerous assassins were dispatched to assassinate him. On the other hand, the new prisoners who will be housed in the same prison as Balam are led to their assigned cells. But first, Officer Green contacted a prisoner named Jack Stone, who had been imprisoned for perpetrating a heist and killing a police officer who happened to be Officer Green's colleague. Officer Green, irritated, hit Jack in the stomach and smirked, claiming that Jack would not live long in prison. 1 week prior, Jack and 2 of his buddies robbed a bank in order to gather credible evidence that could be used to expose acts of corruption and persecution by government officials and many police officers who collaborated with Balam. After receiving the money and relevant information, Jack fled the scene. But soon Jack and his 2 pals are encircled by cops, and the cops shoot them dead. After incapacitating many police officers, Jack managed to flee and seek refuge in a building. When Jack was about to depart, a police officer approached from behind and threatened him. Jack then removed his disguise, revealing his face to the policeman, who was astonished because Jack was a fellow officer. Without thinking, Jack pushed the policeman, and they both fell from a height, with the policeman murdered instantly and Jack surviving. Jack did this on purpose because the police officer was one of those implicated in the murder of Jack's wife. Following that, Jack presented all of the evidence and files pertaining to the corrupt act to a reporter named Tricia, and requested that Tricia investigate and report the matter to the prosecutor's office. Back in prison, Jack is sent to a cell with a prisoner named Silva. During lunch, a prisoner named Semyon, Balam's cousin, approached a new prisoner for security money. Semyon thrashed the victim after he refused to pay him money. After that, Semyon approached Jack with the intention of asking for money. But before Semyon could threaten Jack, the man attacked him and knocked him and his comrades to the ground. The guards then placed Semyon and his men in solitary confinement, while Jack enjoyed his leisurely lunch. The guards then transport Jack to a room where he interacts with Balam via CCTV camera. Balam then tells Jack not to interfere with his business in prison, reminding him of the death of his wife, who was murdered by Balam and his minions. Balam also attempted to threaten Jack, but he did not appear to take it seriously. That night, Jack was abruptly attacked by 3 prisoners who had broken into his holding cell. However, Jack was able to quickly incapacitate the 3 without waking Silva awake. Meanwhile, Tricia, who receives a file containing information regarding corruption by government officials and police officers, attempts to research the facts and learn about Jack Stone's identity. The next day, Tricia visited the prosecutor's office to meet with him. However, the prosecutor was unexpectedly had to attend an important conference, so Tricia was instructed to pass over the information file to the prosecutor's assistant, Mark. Tricia did not believe Mark, so she claimed she would return to meet the prosecutor in person. Tricia was waiting in front of the prosecutor's office to meet with him in person and tell him about the information she had regarding corruption among government officials and police officers. Tricia then pays a visit to Jack in prison and informs him that she is looking into the information he provided. Jack then advised Tricia to exercise caution and make effective use of the material. Jack returned to his cell and reflected about the sweet moments he shared with his now-deceased wife. Following the attack on Semyon, a prisoner named William approached Jack and advised him to be more vigilant. But Jack insists that he is not afraid of Semyon or Balam, and inquires about Balam's prison cell location. William stated that it was totally confidential. Even many of the wardens were unaware of it. The image then transitions to a women's prison, where 2 women appear to be fighting. The guards then arrived and detained the 2 female inmates, one of whom was transferred to a location with her head covered. The woman, Alina, was apparently taken before Balam, along with Semyon and a few other convicts. Semyon and the male captives were found to have gained personal gains by selling drugs and requesting security funds without Balam's knowledge. Alina was sent there after she beat up one of Balam's favorite female minions. Balam then sponsored a contest with a $10,000 prize for whoever could kill Jack Stone and present the man's head before him. William told Jack about what he had heard. Without further ado, the other convicts banded together against Jack to win the Balam fight. but Jack can easily defeat them all with William's assistance. On the other side, Balam received a call from District Attorney Johnson, who informed him that a female reporter had evidence and information about corruption by government officials, as well as police officers who worked with him. Balam then requests that the prosecution remove the female reporter, stating that he will remove Jack Stone before the end of the day. While working on the laundry, Jack is attacked again, this time by the jail warden, who beats him. After leaving the wash area, Jack was ambushed by a group of prisoners who were about to attack him. But before that, Jack stated that if $100,000 were divided by the number of prisoners who would attack him, each person would receive just $11,000. Because it was deemed not worth the risk, the inmates abandoned their plan to attack Jack and walked away. Elsewhere, Tricia informs her friend Allison about Balam and government leaders' corruption. Meanwhile, in the women's prison, Alina visits Balam's female henchman, Kat, and apologizes on Balam's orders. But then Alina intentionally irritates Kat, and they fight again, with Alina pretending to be comatose while Kat punches her up. Alina was then transported to the hospital room to receive treatment. When the doctors and nurses left, Alina promptly removed her handcuffs, took some booze and pills, and concealed them in William's mop bucket, before sneaking into the air vents to locate the CCTV room. Tricia arrives to visit Jack in prison and informs him of the slaughter committed by Balam's troops. Alina, on the other hand, knew where the CCTV room was and ran back to the hospital room before being apprehended. Unfortunately, the nurse was on her way to the medical room. Fortunately, William arrived right away and distracted the nurse, allowing Alina to sneak back into the medical room unseen. While they were studying the scenario, Jack asked William how long he had been undercover. It turns out that Jack is aware that William is an undercover FBI agent rather than a legitimate prisoner. William purposefully disguises himself as a prisoner in order to expose corrupt police personnel and members associated with Balam. William had been on an undercover mission for 6 months, and Alina was his companion. After disclosing everything to Jack, the two are attacked by other inmates. Jack was placed in solitary confinement due to the potential for a ruckus, while William was summoned to Warden Blaine's office. Blaine threatens William with money if he still wants to survive in prison, claiming that William had attacked Balam's henchmen and the prison guards cannot secure his safety without it. Meanwhile, Tricia attempts to meet with District Attorney Johnson again, but the assistant informs her that the prosecutor is unavailable due to an important business matter. Mark then offered to Tricia that he tell the FBI the information he knew. Balam was taken out of his cell shortly after his daughter paid him a visit. William then instructs Alina to begin his action as Balam exits his cell. A prison warden took Alina away after she pretended to be unconscious. However, Alina and William eventually incapacitate the warden. Alina slipped inside the CCTV room, while William disguised himself as a jail guard and went to the control room. Alina learns from CCTV cameras that Balam will soon depart the visiting room after his daughter expresses her disappointment in him for being a crime kingpin. Knowing this, William opened the door to solitary confinement and released Jack. After incapacitating a warden, William informs Jack that he and Alina will assist Jack in getting to Balam's house. Jack instantly disguised himself as a jail guard and followed William and Alina's instructions. But not long after, Warden Blaine and several prison guards discovered that someone had broken into the CCTV room. Alina dashed out of there through the ventilation duct. Because there was no time left and Balam was close at his cell, William opened all of the prison's doors, spreading havoc throughout. When the prisoners gathered to attack the jail officers, a violent feud broke out. Green is desperate and tries to escape, but is stopped by Jack, who tosses him into a gang of inmates who promptly beat him up. William and Alina appear to be preoccupied with defending themselves against any attack. When Jack tries to reach Balam, he is confronted by Semyon, and they begin fighting again. Semyon successfully stabs Jack in the stomach with a knife, but Jack was nevertheless able to defeat the man. In other news, Allison collaborates with the prosecutor and is assigned the responsibility of murdering Tricia and erasing the woman's information. Allison nearly kills Tricia before an FBI agent arrives and saves her. The FBI agent is none other than Mark. During this time, it was discovered that Mark had disguised himself as a prosecutor's staffer in order to expose corruption by District Attorney Johnson and other government officials. Back in prison, after William defeats Warden Blaine and the other guards, Jack locates Balam and engages him in hand-to-hand combat. When Jack fell helpless, the guy remembered his late wife, which inspired Jack to rise again, allowing him to finally vanquish Balam and revenge his wife's death. Shortly after, the SWAT squad arrived to the prison and successfully secured the situation. William then approached Jack and introduced Elena to him. William also stated that his supervisor wanted to express gratitude for his assistance in eradicating Balam's gang, both inside and outside of the prison. Jack also expressed gratitude to both of them for assisting him in exacting his revenge. The FBI eventually arrested all government officials and police officers who were found to be corrupt and had worked with Balam. The film closes with Jack being imprisoned by William, after which Jack is promoted to FBI agent and becomes William's partner. The film's lesson is that you should not be afraid to uphold justice and tell the truth, as Jack and Tricia did by working together indirectly to discover corruption by government leaders and police personnel.